much great content is getting, right? No matter if you put out content in the right manner, if you have the best piece of content, if you work with the biggest influencer, if you put it on your account, if you do not understand how TikTok plays the game, then this is what you're going to be managing. And I don't want you to be managing that. I want you to be printing money a lot more than that, which is why I'm here sharing all this knowledge.
The number one thing stopping you from getting traction on TikTok isn't bad content, isn't bad hook, isn't the algorithm, is the mental model you're running. Now, most people treat TikTok like a content channel. They post a video, they hope it lands, they check the views, and then they post another one. Now, I believe that is gambling. That's like buying a lottery ticket every day and wondering why you're not rich. I have scaled to over 50 million views on TikTok without any paid ads, and I'm going to teach you how to set up your TikTok infrastructure, create content at scale, and go viral. Let's move to chapter 1, the mental model behind TikTok farming.
TikTok is the biggest free distribution channel alive. Paid ads, you've been putting them out. If any one of you has been doing it, you'll realize that the more you do it, the more expensive it becomes, the more frustrating it is. We do not have that with TikTok. The beauty behind TikTok content is that you can keep on putting organic content as long as the hook is right, as long as the content retains users, as long as it's not getting flagged, as long as you have an infrastructure in place, you will keep scaling on TikTok. And that is why I genuinely believe TikTok is the biggest gold mine we all have right now, and we need to start tapping into it. I'm going to try and draw a gold mine here to illustrate what I mean by a gold mine. 1 piece of gold, 2 piece, 3 piece, 4 piece. Now maybe this is where paid ads can get you, but you know what TikTok can get you? TikTok can get you the whole fucking landscape. You can scale for everything you want at the same time. Okay, I'm going to remove this, otherwise my wife will question why am I doing this mess up. Beautiful. Now, looking at how you play with TikTok, I want you to think of it like a game, right? Think of it like a game, and you need to play the game understanding the rules. If you do not understand the rules, you're going to fail at the game. First layer is infrastructure game, then you move up, then you move to the content game where you try to get people to basically view your content for longer. Then you move to the final big boss, which is the conversion game, where you're trying to see how people can convert at the highest rate of the pieces of content you're putting out. 87% of farms are flagged before post 1. Day 1 usually is the wrong setup, which leads to the content being dead on arrival. We need to make sure that we set it up in the right manner. Is how much a great content earns with a dead account. If you do not understand how TikTok plays the game, then this is what you're going to be managing. And I don't want you to be managing that. I want you to be printing money a lot more than that, which is why I'm here sharing all this knowledge. Also, remember guys, the reason I do this is because when I started, I stood on the shoulder of giants, and the giants are what helped me make sure that I don't do this, I don't do this, and I don't do this. And all I'm trying to do is pass it forward to ensure that all of us can stand on bigger shoulders. So it's a game of all of us winning. Farming requires a couple of things. Let's first see. So you are on one side in posting, put one video a day, 30 data points a month is what you get, which is basically your gut feeling regarding, hey, what can work, what cannot work. Now, don't get me wrong, you can get really lucky with this and might happen that, oh, boom, suddenly one video goes viral. But I can promise you that you'll find it really hard to replicate because you don't build a system behind it. You rely on luck, and luck doesn't always favor those who are putting out a post. It favors the ones who are farming. Now, farming on the other hand, as you see on the right side, what you're going to be doing as a part of farming is you will put out over 200 videos a day, right? So that is really high volume. Now, which equals 6,000 data points. So I don't want you to think of it as I'm putting out 6,000 videos a month. I want you to think of it as I'm getting 6,000 data points a month, which are patterns you can see, decisions you can trust. Now, let's look at this little chart over here. Let's attribute this to be your month, right? So you've got, let me switch to a different marker. Then you've got one post here, 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 you've got one post here. Do you see how those are really isolated? And if you have to draw a trend between them, it becomes really hard. And that is why we rely on farming to understand and read into what does TikTok prefer, what does it not prefer, what is the algorithm working like for your content. What you do in farming is, farming is about all these green data points you see, right? Now you see this clump, you see another clump, you see another clump of data points. Now, if you keep seeing these clumps, you'll understand what I mean. Every time you see a certain clump or a certain cluster of information, you can use it to derive results on what is working or what is not working. And this is the beauty of TikTok farming. This is why anyone trying to scale organically needs to experiment around with farming. Because when you combine all these clumps individually might seem like single experiments going well, but when you combine all these clumps and you create a whole system behind that, that is where you are able to scale to 50 million views and more, because you have a system in place. You know how to engineer virality and keep repeating it again and again and again. Now, often what happens to me is founders come up to me, other operators come up to me and tell me, I've been shadow banned. I think TikTok is coming after me. No, you're not shadow banned if you have one account, if you have two accounts. And I won't say you're wrong. I think it's just that you don't have the right information you need to understand what is actually happening. So let's look into it. Let's look at what does one account give us and why doesn't it provide us the right information. Now, when you have one account, you have one ban, which means your farm is dead. You have one format you're testing at a time, and it can take anywhere from weeks to months to understand if that format works or not. You have weeks per insight, as I mentioned. You have to wait for a long period to understand what is working, what is not working. You have one geo and only one audience to target. Geo means the location you're targeting, audience is the particular niche you're targeting. So you only have one geo and one audience to target. And you cannot isolate variables. I can't emphasize how important this is, isolating variables. I'll break this down in the next few slides, but this is what one account leads you to do, and that is why we try to multiply the output we are getting so we can go into farming. So let's cross off the one account mark. Now I'm going to show you what the 30 account part looks like, or why is it more helpful. Now let me select the right brush. Give me a second here. Still finicking around with this tool. This is one of the first videos we are putting out because we genuinely want to create this content. But I'm a TikTok master, not a YouTube long form content master, and I am in the process of understanding this. So thank you for the patience. I always appreciate that. Now let's look at what is happening when we have 30 accounts in line here. You have one ban, you still have 20 accounts that are still running. You have 5 formats which you're testing simultaneously, which means that you're not relying on one of them working, or think of it like a little wall which is really slippery, right? Your role is to find out what is going to stick on this slippery wall. You cannot do that if you're just throwing one thing on the wall and waiting for weeks to understand if it's sticking or not. What you need is this imaginary wall you've got in front of you. You need to be throwing multiple things at it, right? There's no limit to how much you can throw on this wall as long as you have the right infrastructure. You throw multiple things at this wall, and let's say you throw 10 things and you notice only one thing is sticking. That is amazing, because for the next time you know what kind of thing is sticking, or you know what spot on the wall is it sticking on, and you can target either the same spot on the wall, or you can try throwing the same thing again and see if it sticks. You also have days per insight if you have multiple accounts, which means 24 to 48 hours you know what is working, what is not working. You do not have to wait for ages just to figure out what kind of content can perform or not perform. Multiple geos. The advantage is you could be targeting New York or LA or SF or Boston or Texas, any of these places. You can do this when you have 30 plus accounts running. You can have 6 accounts per place, 6 accounts per another place. Same with the country as well. You can target US, you can target UK, you can target Australia, you can target Europe, any country you want. This is the advantage you get when you have a wider testing base. And sometimes what you'll discover is my content is doing really well in the UK, but it's not performing in Germany. Why might that be happening? Once you understand this, then you can start understanding that content, the hook does stick, but maybe there's some other element which is not working out. Now, this is a data point you can only have when you are running multiple accounts, not just one account. Then the last part, which is important, is you can isolate variables precisely, which means that you can tell, is it bad content versus bad account that is stopping it from working? Is it hook failure versus moderation pressure? Is it geo suppression versus saturation? Is it format decay or posting mistake? And if all these terms sound too complex to you, don't worry, I'm going to explain them in the next slide. The advantage though with farming is that you can isolate which of these variables is breaking or which is working, and you can drill down double into the part that's working, right? So no more guessing, no more luck, no more relying on randomness to make your content work. You have a system, you have a structure in place to make your content work and operate. Now, a lot of people come to me and say, TikTok flag my content. Guys, TikTok flags your content if you let TikTok do what it wants you to do. I'm going to repeat that again. A lot of people come up to me and tell me, hey, TikTok flag my content. No, TikTok flagged you guys. It flagged the actions you're taking. It flagged the way you're operating. It flagged the way you're moving. And your content is you relying on luck, you being at the mercy of TikTok. We don't want that. I don't want you to have that. I want you to control your destiny. I want you to control your TikToks. I want you to control your money engine. Do not let TikTok flag you. That's what it does. TikTok doesn't flag your content, it flags you, it flags the way you're operating, it flags the system you have in place. Now, let me tell you a bit about why single account advice fails, what it prevents you from distinguishing. Let me pull out my beautiful keyboard so I can type this and present this to you. Now, when you have a single account, I'm going to point out the things you cannot between. Let's say just put between here. Now, number one is bad content or bad account, right? Important factor. Is it the content that is the issue? If you're going to be using AI generated content, if you're going to be putting out content which is reused from other accounts, then it is going to get flagged. If your content is not hitting 300 views, then the content is getting flagged. If it's not hitting 1,000 views, then the hook is not working. If it's not hitting 1,000 and above, then you don't have retention on the content. Now, these are really different things to distinguish on, right? You've got bad content on one side, then on the other side, you've got a bad account. It just might be that you didn't set up the infrastructure properly. TikTok started linking up all the accounts you have, and because another account got flagged, this account is flagged as well. Or TikTok identified your behavior as bot behavior, that's why it's not pushing your content out. Now, if you're running a single account, you can't distinguish this. You can't tell the difference between bad content and bad account. That is why it's essential for you to have a wider testing base with your accounts in place. Number two, now this is the part where hook failure or moderation pressure. I am typing off the screen. Let me pull that back so I can show that to you again. Or moderation pressure, right? Now, what is hook failure? Hook failure is the first 3 to 5 seconds where, when you're scrolling TikTok, right? Imagine this, you're opening TikTok, you're going through TikTok, you scroll, you stop, you're like, oh, fuck, this hook is great. You don't say that, but you think that internally, that's how your psychology operates, and you end up watching the rest of the content. Now, this is called a hook, and you need to have a strong hook to stop the scrolling. Otherwise, we are all used to just going through TikTok and scrolling. We don't want that. We want them to stop on our content. If that does not happen, if the hook is not strong enough, it's called hook failure. On the other side, you've got moderation pressure as well. Giving you a couple of examples. Imagine that you have content that is, as I mentioned before, it's bad content, it's getting flagged because of the account setup. It could have moderation pressure on it. Imagine that the content might be fine, but there's too much saturation of the content on social media. That is another thing that might lead to higher moderation pressure on the content. Or it might just happen then once your video starts scaling, TikTok detects that it's AI and it starts flagging the video again. There are a lot of factors that come into place, and that's why I recommend have multiple accounts so you can distinguish. Now imagine instead of one account, you have 10 accounts. You're testing out the content on that. You notice that on 6 accounts it worked and on 2 accounts it did not work. That helps you understand that it's not the content that is the issue, it's some other factor that's contributing to it not working out for you. Third, geo-suppression versus saturation. Now, breaking down these two concepts, like I said, I'm going to make everything quite easy for you. My goal here is to not label this with heavy words, but make sure you understand everything. Geo-suppression is when in a particular geography, your content is suppressed because it doesn't match the TikTok's algorithmic rules set for that particular geography. Saturation is when there's too much of that content in that same geography and it leads to your content not picking up because of too much supply, right? As we know, between demand and supply, if there is enough supply and demand, it's a good harmony. If there's more supply, not enough demand, then the supply usually gets undervalued until it's not picking up anymore. Now, this is the difference between geo-suppression and saturation, and one of the reasons you need multiple accounts as well to understand what exactly is the cause. And then the last one is format decay versus posting mistake. Oh, my spelling is not on point today. Versus posting mistake. We might have to slip over mistake to the other side. Okay, beautiful. Format decay. I don't know if any one of you was ever watching the social scene before, but if you were on TikTok in 2025, you would realize there was a point where Couple Joy had a video going out which was going crazy viral. It was just a girl reacting to the camera, looking at the camera, text overlay on top, and it was followed by a reaction or a B-roll clip of your product in place. Now, what initially happened is when this format came out, it printed money for them. They were doing six figures in monthly revenue, and they scaled this from 10,000. They were trying to post initially on one single account. They couldn't figure it out, so they started scaling it heavily by utilizing creators to create this kind of content, and they did it over, I think at a peak point, they had 30 to 50 creators running the content format. Now, it worked really well initially, but it led to a problem. The problem was that everyone who was coming onto TikTok was viewing the same piece of content, and they got tired of it, right? You also know that if you're eating cake, if you eat enough of the cake, after some point you're like, I don't want any more cake. I don't want to be touching cake. I don't want to be seeing it. Keep it far away from me. This is the same thing which happens with a particular format. Now, if we are slamming it, if your industry is slamming it again and again and again and again, people get immunized to it, right? It doesn't make them stop the scroll. It makes them just go by, because they're like, I've seen this before. This is a cake I don't want to taste. On the other side, we've got a posting mistake. What is a posting mistake? Let's say you're putting out the content and you didn't turn on your VPN. You didn't check your proxy location to ensure that it's in the right place. You decided, okay, I'm going to be putting this post out, but you didn't warm up your account before you put the post out. A lot of factors which could affect the posting method you use, which could then lead to the content not working. And again, this is one of the things we realize when we are scaling content on multiple accounts. If you have only one account, you can't really tell the difference between both of these. If you have multiple accounts, then you can clearly see. Now, breaking it all down, now you can clearly see, is it bad content or bad account? Is it hook failure or moderation pressure? Is it geo suppression versus saturation? Is it format decay versus posting mistake? And this is why I want you to be an operator, right? Pulling up a TikTok farm, you can get phones really cheap. You can link up a proxy to them, which doesn't cost anything. And you can scale this at a fraction of the cost which you would spend on paid ads. Cool. Good stuff. Let's move to the next slide. Now, I'm going to teach you about how TikTok actually learns your account. This is crucial to understand, because if you know how TikTok thinks, you can beat TikTok. If you do not know how they think, you cannot beat them, right? If you want to beat them at their own game, if you want to scale your content, if you want to farm content on TikTok, you need to understand how TikTok operates. What does it look at? Now, remember, TikTok's priority is to cut all bot traffic, cut all farming traffic. They want to make sure that they get as many organic users as possible. Once we understand this, then we can start understanding the framework a bit better. So let's see what TikTok is going to be looking at. While TikTok is profiling accounts, it's going to be looking at the scroll speed. So it wants to see, are you blitzing past the content? Are you just running through it just to warm up the account? Or are you like a genuine user, right? Which means you might not like two pieces. On the third piece, you might stop for 10 seconds, see what's happening. Then you might skip past the next piece. And then the other piece might capture your attention for 3 seconds, but wasn't good enough, didn't fit what you wanted. And then the next piece might be a banger. It makes you stop the scroll. It makes you watch the content. It makes you go over it over a longer period. Now, this is how TikTok sees your scrolling speed. And this is why it's an important variable as well for TikTok to reward you as an organic user. When you're warming up your account, make sure you warm it up as if you were an actual user, not as if you were a bot, not as if you were operating on automation, not as if you were doing things out of a checklist just to get them off there. First thing, scrolling speed. Second, watch completion. Are you actually watching any content till completion or not? Because what's going to happen on a bot is that you're going to go in, you're going to look at a piece of content, maybe it's dictated, stay on it for 10 seconds, you do that, and then you go to the next piece, 5 seconds. But there's nothing which actually captivates you, or it's not wired in your system as a bot to watch it till completion. That is why completion rate is one of the big things as well. I recommend in the warm-up, make sure you get a video or two and watch it till completion, so it signals to TikTok that you are an actual user interested in this particular kind of content. Third is like or skips. Now, this is important as well, right? You might come on the content, you might stop on it, you might watch it till completion, but are you liking content, or are you just skipping past every piece? Liking does two things. It trains the algorithm to understand what is your niche, or what content or what industry are you interested in. Also, it teaches TikTok that you are a real user. Think of it from a real person point of view. If they like your content, they're going to stop on it, they're going to pause on it, and they will give it a like, they might give it a comment as well, they might give it a share as well. Behave in the same manner. Third, comment behavior. Very important point people end up missing out on, right? They'll do a warm up for 5-10 minutes and then they'll just drop it there. Why? Because they're like, I don't know, I'll have to think a bit before I put out any kind of comment. Well, guys, commenting is the most natural behavior you can do. Make sure when you're warming up, when you're pulling through an account, you drop a couple of comments into the account. and make the comments sound genuine as well. So not just dropping a fire emoji. Instead, make sure you're going in there and you're engaging as a real user would. You see the actual post, you see the actual comments, maybe you reply to someone, maybe you drop an insightful comment on your own as well. Then search intent. Now, this is crucial. If you come on TikTok and you are searching for just one particular niche all the time, over and over and over again, TikTok thinks that this user is probably representing a product and they really want to push out the product or push the product, push a certain kind of content for the product. You need to be organic regarding your search. Now imagine I am a teenage girl based in a US tier 2 city. I would want to explore a lot of things, right? I'm not just going to go there and search for couple apps. I'll probably search for love. I'll probably search for, what happens the first time when you kiss a boy. I'll search for my school content. I'll search for other kind of content as well. So make sure you keep your account organic by keeping the search organic as well. Do not behave like a bot when you're searching. Do not just search in one niche all the time. Alter it. And then the last one, niche consistency. Now, what niche consistency means that, as I mentioned, you need to alter your search terms infrequently, but you also need to make sure your major interest, 80% of your effort and dedication is towards a particular niche. Now, this is not because we want to signal to TikTok as an organic account. It's because you want to make sure TikTok's learning revolves around you being the master or you being fascinated and really deep into one particular niche. So all of the 5 behaviors I dictated to you before, these are important to make sure that TikTok thinks you're an organic user. But in a TikTok learning phase, you want to make sure your niche is consistent. 80% of your likes, your shares, your comments, your scroll stops, your searches are dedicated towards the niche you want to target. This way, TikTok considers you really deep into a niche. When you put out your content as well, TikTok is going to be targeting the same niche for you. Now, this is a key point around why farms uncover truths solo creators never end up seeing, right? So let's see from the naked eye first. Let's see when we are just standing here. What we see is just what is in front of us. We don't actually see anything else, right? We have one account or 2 accounts. We have a couple of pieces of content going out. We put out everything once in a while. We end up missing out on a lot of important things. I'm going to tell you what those important things are when we move to the section where we are farming. Now, farming is a beautiful thing, guys. It's one of the things I enjoy the most. You have 40 accounts running, you have a telescope array, you can point in a lot of different locations at the same time, you can see in a lot of different locations. And the beauty of that is that you can see these tiny little patterns emerge out of all the noise, which teach you a lot about what is working. The part where it becomes really instrumental to your success is when you come in, you notice these individual patterns spread everywhere and you start linking them up. So you form a correlation between your patterns, and this way, I should have made it a star, but let's say this way, this is a rocket ship, and your rocket ship gets fired now because you've linked all these patterns together. Now, why does farming uncover truths which solo creators never see? It's because farms expose a couple of things. One, they will tell you about geo-level moderation changes, or clustering actually. Now this clustering is quite important for you to understand that I spelled moderation wrong, number one, but we'll move past beyond that. The second reason is also because you understand how is a geography exactly clustered, what are the variables TikTok is looking at, what is it not looking at or ignoring, what are the fuck-ups you can make, what are the things you need to focus on. Secondly, let me put a 1 point here, boom. Secondly, it teaches you about format saturation thresholds. Trying to spell this one right, boom, we got that. All right, format saturation thresholds. What that means is that when is your format actually saturating? This is something you learn with time as you keep doing it over and over again. Farming allows you to have that data on a much faster basis instead of waiting for weeks or months for you to actually get that data. 3, this is something I learned in a couple of months after I started farming, silent account linking. Now, what does silent account linking does? It is the part where if you've got 5 different accounts, TikTok starts to link some of them together because of similar behavior. And what that leads to is your flags being linked as well. So if TikTok detects one account as a bot account, it's going to start stamping every other account with the bot behavior as well, even though the behavior might completely be fine. And this is where a farm helps you expose that as compared to running 2 or 3 accounts at the same time. 4, comment loop amplification. This is one of the key ways you can convert more users on your product. When you can put in comment loops into the product, use that to amplify the outcome out of a particular content. And a farm allows you to do this because you've got multiple content engines running which do not cross over into each other, apart from the factor that they can interlace and provide a high degree of comment trust validation. And then the last part is AI detection penalties at scale. Now, as you know, AI content is everywhere. The issue with AI content is not that it doesn't work, but you need to experiment a lot more as compared to real UGC to understand what is working, what is not working on the AI content side. Having a farm allows you to see these penalties and reveal them as compared to an individual account or a couple of accounts, which you don't actually know what anomaly is breaking. Is it because of the content testing you're doing? Is it because of the format testing? Is it because of hook testing, etc.? Now, the playbook is based on farm level behavior, not creator anecdotes, and that's why we have been really focused on labeling this all in the right manner. Let's look at the next one. The operators who are going to win are going to set up infrastructure first, content second. As I mentioned in the previous point, infrastructure, then content. The way you play the game is infrastructure game, content game, then conversion game, right? This is on the TikTok side of things. Chapter 2, which I'm going to be covering next week, is going to be about hardware and infrastructure. We're going to be discussing a bit around how do you set up or how do you get the right hardware? What devices are all right? How should you target on them? How do you set them up after? Then we'll target also a bit about the infrastructure. Once you have the devices, how do you ensure you start the setup right? How do you ensure you don't get flagged up? Is it real phone versus emulators? Is it iPhone versus Android? New versus refurbished phones? Or one phone, how many accounts can you have? All of these are really important to understand and set the right foundation in place. So I'm going to see you next week for this. Remember what I said. All I want from your side is if this helps you, send it to your friend who's been trying to do this for a while as well. Help your friend out, help other founders out. Remember, we all grow together and I want to grow together with you. Thank you guys. Heads off. I'm going to catch you next time. Bye bye.